Hey, what's up, tubers? It's Tony, and today I'm at the junkyard making a video. We're going to be talking about how to replace the airbag clock spring, and this is a 2008 Ford Explorer. I want you folks to keep in mind that the concept of replacing the clock spring, it's the same regardless of what year Ford you drive or vehicle you drive, for that matter of fact. All airbag clock springs are located behind the steering wheel on your vehicle. However, your clock spring will look slightly different than the one that's being displayed in today's video. Before you start working on something such as the airbag system to remove a clock spring, it's always a wise idea to disconnect the black cable from your battery and wait about a good hour and a half before you remove the airbag. I replaced the clock spring on my Ford Explorer 3 days ago, guys, and the reason is the horn started sounding while I was driving. I couldn't figure out why it was going off. It wouldn't stop. When I turned the vehicle off, the horn would go off. Start the vehicle up, drive 20 minutes or so, get home, turn the vehicle off, lock the vehicle, the horn would start going off again, and it just kept doing that. So eventually I disconnected the black cable from the battery until I was able to investigate what the issue was. So let's quickly discuss signs of a bad clock spring, guys. You could have difficulty turning your steering wheel. Notice that things are a little bit off when you turn left or right. Your airbag light may be on, guys. It may even be flashing for the most part. As we discussed earlier, your horn may be acting up. Controls on the steering column may not be working. Your radio may not work, because my radio started acting really weird. Most importantly, guys, in the event of a crash, your airbag may not deploy if you have a bad clock spring. So if you hear weird noises coming from the steering wheel area, guys, go get this issue evaluated by a mechanic that knows what he or she is doing. It's just not worth it. You can purchase clock springs at your local auto parts stores for a really high fee. You can go to Amazon.com, carparts.com, I think partsgeek.com. You can check rockauto.com and Salvo Auto Parts as well, which I didn't check those two that I mentioned last. Tools you'll need to do this job, guys. They're all 1/4 inch tools. You'll need a 1/4 inch T15 Torx screw remover. You'll need a 1/4 inch 7mm and 5.5mm socket. You'll need a 24mm socket, and that's 1/2 inch, to remove the steering wheel retaining bolt. So, let me point out one more thing, guys, right quick. I am against purchasing used clock springs from eBay and from folks who go to the junkyard and remove these just to make a buck. And I got it. You know that you're trying to make a buck, but I'll come back to that towards the end of the video. So, to get started, guys, you're going to need to remove a couple of things. Down there, you're going to see this panel, 7mm. This just pops off. Place it to the side. You're going to see this bracket down there as well, 2 7mm. Pull it off, place it to the side. Even though this is a different color, guys, remember I'm at the junkyard. Underneath the steering column, there are going to be 3 5.5mm screws. Remove those. Then take a trim panel tool, stick in between here, and separate the top part and the bottom part of the steering cover. Place that to the side. You're going to need to remove this cover, 7mm here, and one on the right side as well. Then you can just simply grab down here and pop this off. It just pops off, but be careful before you remove it. Remember also, you can adjust the steering column up and down so that you can get this out. Before you remove this, take note that typically on the right side of the steering wheel, there's usually a green electrical connector running into a sensor that's right here. Push down on the tab to separate the electrical connector away from the sensor. And then there's usually a hose that runs out of there as well. You'll see it. And you can move this to the side Someone already removed the sensor, but remember, I'm at the junkyard, guys. The next thing you want to do, now that you have all of your plastic out of the way, is there's a 7mm retaining bolt there for the airbag. There's one on the right side. Remove those 2 screws, and then you are ready to remove the airbag. Okay, guys, so now that you're ready to remove the airbag, gently pull the airbag towards you. And the reason is there are 3 color-coded electrical connectors back there, guys, and you don't want to rip them. How do you get them off? And remember, they're color-coded, so you can't mess up as to where they go. I take a pair of needle nose pliers, squeeze in this tab, and gently pull up on the electrical connector. Before you disconnect these electrical connectors, take note as to which direction they're pointing in. If they were sitting in there like this, that's how they will fit. They won't fit any other way. So disconnect your electrical connectors, then you can place the airbag to the side. Now you're ready to disconnect this electrical connector from the steering column. It runs into your clock spring, so you can do it while it's there. I usually just push down on the tab. The tab is at the bottom down here. I usually just push down on the tab, guys, and then pull the electrical connector away. So there you go. So there's the tab right there. And now you are ready to remove your 24mm bolt. And guys, when you start this job, it's always a good idea to make sure your steering wheel is straight. So go ahead and break that bolt loose. Take that bolt, place it to the side, make sure you don't lose it. And now you can slowly pull out your steering wheel, okay? Place that to the side, and there's your clock spring. So right quick, guys, I'm going to discuss why I don't believe in purchasing clock springs offline. Your new clock spring will come with a lock, meaning that it's set in place. Clock springs are designed to only turn but so far to the left and so far to the right. There's a ribbon inside of the clock spring. So when you purchase these used clock springs from folks, if they spun it around 10 times and then sell it to you, and this is where it's sitting, and then you put it there and then put it in your vehicle, I guarantee you that when you start driving and turn either to the right or to the left, you're going to start hearing weird noises because this thing is out of whack now because it's not in the right place where it needs to be. But I'll leave that up to you as to whether you want to purchase a used clock spring or not. I'm highly against it. Again, if you purchase a used clock spring, turn it to the left, turn it to the right, you may start hearing weird noises. Your steering wheel functions may act up. Your horn could start acting up. I'm not trying to scare you guys. I just want you guys to be aware when you're buying these things. So the next thing you want to do is disconnect that electrical connector. It is a pain in the ass, okay? What you have to do is take something pointy like this, and what I do is I put it down into this hole, push, and break loose the electrical connector. That's free. The next thing you want to do is you're going to need to remove the steering angle sensor located on the right side of the steering column. Break that loose and remove it. So once you break loose the 2 T15 screws that hold in the steering column, guys, take a good look at how that sensor sits in there. And when you slowly pull it out, examine how it sits in there because you want to make sure it goes back in the same way you took it out. You can just let that hang. Now remove your 2 screws that hold in your clock spring. Now, FYI also, guys, if you were removing your clock spring, let's say you needed to replace your entire steering column for whatever reason, and you decided to remove the clock spring on your vehicle, turn the steering wheel straight. For the most part, this should line up right there or wherever. When you turn that steering wheel straight, when you go to take everything apart, and pull off the steering wheel, if your clock spring is sitting right there, make a little magic marker mark here and another mark there, and keep the clock spring together so that it doesn't move. You can take a little piece of rope or a tie strap and just gently tie it in place so that it doesn't move. That way you can put it right back on and it'll be in the same place before you start it. So now that you remove those two retainer screws, you can go ahead and pull your clock spring out, guys. Okay, there's your old clock spring. So I just took another clock spring off of another Ford Explorer at the junkyard, and we're going to pretend that this is our new clock spring. Remember, your new clock spring will come with this yellow lock. Yours may be a different color, especially if you don't have a Ford Explorer. So what you do is put your clock spring, set it into place, okay? And this is going to work better for you when you don't have a camera in your hand. While the clock spring is sitting into place, take your steering angle sensor and gently push it in. Make sure that they are both seated correctly, okay? And then go ahead and screw the angle sensor in, and then the clock spring screws. Guys, when you're screwing this stuff down, you don't need to go bonkers. Screw it in, and the moment you start feeling true resistance, back off. This is nothing but plastic, and you don't want to crack anything. Okay, guys, before you put the steering wheel back on, now that your clock spring is back into place, do a dummy check. Make sure that the steering angle sensor is screwed in, clock spring screwed in. Now you can go ahead and hook up this electrical connector, push it in till it locks into place. Now you're ready to put the steering wheel back over this. I'm going to go ahead and route these wires and that lock back through the same hole you used to pull the old ones out through. So see what I did, guys? I routed this back through the steering wheel. You want to go ahead and hook up this sensor. Make sure that it locks back into place. Now, folks, with your 24mm bolt back in place, the electrical connector hooked back into the clock spring, make sure that it locks into place. You can go ahead and pull this pin out now, okay? Now you can start the process of putting your airbag back on. Okay, folks, when you connect your electrical connectors, again, they're color-coded, so you can't get them wrong. Again, they will only go in the same direction that they came out. They're not meant to go in the reverse order, okay? So I can't turn this sensor around and then push it down. Now you can go ahead, put your airbag back on. Then what you can do is put your two 7mm screws back in that hold the airbag into place on both sides of the steering wheel, okay? And for the most part, you will have replaced your clock spring on your 2008 Ford Explorer or any vehicle that you drive to where you need to replace the clock spring, okay? Remember, again, the concept is the same. I know this has been a lengthy video, guys, but I like to give good information. I don't like to rush because there's a lot of people out there that really don't know what they're doing. And so it's always a good idea to give good information. For those of you who need to drop your steering column for any reason, you need to do everything that I did in this video except for remove the airbag. You don't need to remove the airbag. And then there are your steering column bolts right there. There are 4 14mm bolts. Let's see if I can get you a clearer picture. There's one there, one right there, and then there are 2 in the back. So if you needed to drop the steering column, that's where your bolts are. There's another 10mm bolt on the shaft back there. See that bolt? You'll need to break that loose first before you drop the steering column's 14mm nuts, okay? So again, 10mm bolt, 4 14mm nuts that must be removed in order to drop the steering column. So anyway, guys, I hope the video has been helpful and beneficial to you. Again, I apologize for the video being so long, but hope it helps. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.